Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Robert Klein. I'm the Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs. Thank you for being here for it says the first campus-wide leadership series, but many of you know we had Lee Norman in November for Veterans Day, so I guess he was really a first, but first in the spring series. I'd like to extend a special welcome to our colleagues who are watching online. We're excited about this leadership series for this year and hope you all will be able to join us as much as possible throughout the semester, either in person or streaming. Special thanks to the continued support of the University of Kansas Health System, School of Health Professions, School of Medicine, School of Nursing, our partners in this program. Their continued support of the program is invaluable and much appreciated. Thank you also to the Transgender Medicine from the Health System for their presence at today's event. Kim Vandergeest Wallace, I was told that you need to wave. There, okay. Is here representing that program. We are thrilled to have Veronica Malone here today as our distinguished guest. However, I'd like to ask Dr. Larry Long to introduce Veronica. Larry is the Director of Counseling and Educational Support Services, and as he will explain, has a long history with Veronica. Larry will also be facilitating today's conversation with Veronica. Thank you for coming, and look forward to the presentation.
My name's Larry Long. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a licensed psychologist. I've been here at KU Med since 2001. And I'm a former Kansas City Blazer swimmer. And I'll talk a little bit about what that is and what that means. But I'm really pleased to introduce Veronica Malone. There are a few times in your professional career where you'll have an opportunity to introduce someone who, outside of your family, has had a profound impact on your life. Veronica is a legend in the world of swimming. She was the founder of the Kansas City Blazers swim team in 1975 and subsequently served as the head coach and general manager from 1975 to 2010. Veronica has a long history, along a distinguished list of achievements and accomplishments throughout her career. Some highlights include the USA's swimming's top 25 most influential people in the history of swimming, recipient of the USA Swimming Award in 2001, consulting coach to the 1988, 1992 and 1996 U.S. Olympic teams, U.S. Swimming Coaches, Swimming Olympic International Operations Committee member from 1984 to 2008, the American Swimming Coach Association Hall of Fame inductee in 2009, the American Swimming Coaches Association Gold Award for 20 years of national level coaching achievement, and most recently, Veronica has been an active volunteer at various groups around Kansas City, the Kansas City area, and serves currently as the Vice President of PFLAG Kansas City. I met Veronica in 1977. I was 9 years old, and swam for Veronica from
my age.
She was 12, right? So there's a little bit of an age difference. But from 77 until 87, I was a Kansas City Blazer swimmer. My experience with the Kansas City Blazers has inspired me to be a lifetime endurance athlete. I've completed several Ironman triathlons. I've done a 36-mile river swim. I've done a 100-mile foot race. And Coach Malone's teachings, lessons, and the impact of the Kansas City Blazers were there with me throughout those experiences. In fact, the psychology of endurance is something I've embraced most of my career in life, and the idea of being able to be more effective using psychological strategies and tactics has carried me to teach those lessons and share the lessons that I learned from Coach Malone to our students and residents over the last 18 years. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Veronica Malone to our campus.
In opening, let me first say thank you to KU Medical Center and school and all the groups that are sponsoring these talks, and especially the talk that I've had the privilege to be invited for. And I want to give special thanks to both Larry and Jenny, who have made this opportunity come available to me. And Jenny didn't know what she was getting into when she invited me. But because I had lots of questions. When I retired, I was transitioning, and so I retired from the world of sports, and I retired from really everyday coaching. I was active through 2012 Olympics because I had some leadership positions, and I was real involved with us preparing for that Olympics. And I had a couple swimmers that were still at that level and trying to make the team, and one did, and she won a gold medal in London, and so I felt I closed my door well. But really, I want to mention at the beginning, a lot of times you'll see my resume or you'll see the things that people like to talk about. I want to have you all focus on it. Those are results. They weren't my goals. They're results of going to work every day and trying to help, whether it be a family or a child or an adult swimmer, find answers and reach their potential and dreams. So even I get kind of awed when they tell me I did all those things. You know, when somebody says, well, how many Olympians did you have? And I said, well, I have to count them. I had somebody in every Olympics from 1980 through 2012. And I had 5 of them that had the opportunity to win Olympic gold medals. One of them won 2. They won a number of bronze and silvers, but we tend to, in the United States, don't think those are very important. That's not how I coached. And probably one of the greatest things I can share with you today, in which in this first 25 minutes or so I hope to share, is that material rewards are here today and gone tomorrow. But who you are is with you for life. So that was a huge premise of what was in my mind when I walked on deck every day and when I went to bed, which I did live on 3 and 4 hours sleep, because as Larry would tell you, I was on deck coaching kids at 5 a.m. and during his years I was still on deck at 9 or 9:30 and ran the businesses in between. And so I'm going to try to get into the talk a little bit, but what I really want to share with you again is, Larry just hit one of the most important things I tried to coach, and it was mental endurance. And when people would ask me to list the 2 or 3 ingredients of why you can have somebody in every Olympics live in Kansas City, which is not known for the hotbed of swimming, and develop a club that didn't lose Missouri and Kansas swim as one unit in the sport of swimming. Okay, we are one LSC, as they call it, local swim committee. And from 1978 till I retired, we never lost a championship, winter or summer. So it's a pretty long streak and a lot of meets, And the sectional championship took place, and it includes Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska. And we won that 93% of the time. That, again, those were goals, I'll be perfectly honest with you, to win those meets. Because they symbolized that all my athletes came together and were performing well. And that they saw themselves as a team. And that they were all on the same page. Those were more important to me than winning an Olympic gold medal. And so I want to hit a couple key points, and we are going to go into a period where Larry's going to ask a lot of questions, and we'll talk a little bit more about my transition during that period, because this is the authentic me as I stand in front of you. And I'm not ashamed of living a life as a male. I look at it as I had the privilege of having that opportunity, because it forced me to develop a lot of skills and things that weren't, believe it or not, you would think were natural to me. They weren't. What was natural was to wanting to be a woman. And it'll fit with some of the things I'm going to share here in a few minutes. And so I will just say that, okay? And I really came here, yes, I'm a very proud transgender woman and very proud transgender grandparent. And I have 9 grandchildren. I have 3 daughters, and I've been married for 45 years, so I do have endurance. Okay, and my wife has more endurance because this has really put things, as our marriage started, she says, and we spent a couple of years separated, she goes, I didn't know what I was getting into, and I don't want to be married to a swim coach. And so we put it back together. We had 3 wonderful daughters who are all teachers. My wife taught 2nd grade for 39 years. And before I go on to a lot of they're my gold medal. And I have fought hard to keep them. This has been hard. Okay. I also see myself as an educator that chose to get in the vehicle because I love analogies, I love sayings, and I love things that create pictures. And that's how I coached. So the vehicle I picked was sports because I wanted to make a difference. And it's something that I was pretty good at when I was young, and I wasn't at all good in a lot of other things. I started my journey out independently because people say, well, how did you get so much accomplished? My first swimmer made a national team in 1971. I wasn't even 21 yet. But I left home when I was 15, 16. And possibly now I can connect it to, I didn't feel I fit. And I was searching for where I fit. But I realized that I fit in sports, and I knew that I didn't want other young people to face some of the challenges I faced during those first couple years. So it was my goal to give them the tools, and I had to find a car, and then I had to find a car, so swimming was it. So that was the car I picked, okay? And I drove it for 45 years in sports. I'd like to take at this time to share a few, because I'm big on quotes, and I share them with my athletes all the time. But I'm going to start with our 6th President of the United States, John Quincy Adams. And when I was asked to talk, just so you know, I haven't done anything like this in 10 years. And I thought I'd never do it again. Transitioning was enough. And in a public forum, as my authentic self is an honor, because I'm very proud. That's why I'm involved with PFLAG and trying to do what I can. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. Because I know this is a leadership series, so that was a central theme of things that would hit me that I needed to help create a picture for you. This will make more sense, I hope, in time. There were some quotes. I used Bob Proctor's Insights of the Day. I've had that coming into my, either through mail or email, when I finally learned after I did pay my youngest daughter $1 a week to do my email. And it really wasn't till my business manager tied me. They tried a beeper on me. They tried lots of things on me, and I hated them, and I threw them in the pool, and and they don't do well there. Okay. And they kept saying, we have to have communication with you, because sometimes I'd be out of the country for a month, and things don't stop just because I go, and not in my house and not in running my own club here, okay? And I'm just a dumb swim coach, but I learned to be pretty good at it. But one of the insights that came in between being invited in here, and I saved all these, but I would give these to my swimmers on a daily basis. There's an inspiration that comes every day if you want to sign up for Bob Proctor's. He gives you a weekly story, and a quote comes in every morning, like clockwork. And so it was there by the time I was on the deck. And many times that was their little sunshine. If you're not a leader on the bench, don't call yourself a leader on the field. You're either a leader everywhere or nowhere. So what I'm challenging all of you here as I share some of these thoughts is that you reflect and say, how does it apply to me and my picture? because it will be different, just like a set of fingerprints. Everybody's fingerprints are unique. There are no two alike. And I had a coach that way, realizing that. They might go the same time, they might be the same height, they might even have the same parents. But I saw every one of my swimmers as an individual. And I saw them for who they were. And that was a major, direct, concentrated purpose. In 3 words, I can sum up everything I've learned about life. And boy, this is true. It goes on. And in relating it to my transgender, I wake up in the morning and I see me as I'm brushing my teeth. And when I go to bed at night, I sometimes just stand there with my hands on the sink and say, God, I get to see me. And it makes going to bed a lot easier. Fearlessness is like a muscle. I know from my own life that more I exercise it, and I want to let you know, I'll stop there for a second. I have worried about this talk ever since I was invited. And I've done presentations in all parts of the world, but then I'm talking about training, or I'm talking about some athlete's story, or I'm arguing some political thing as it relates to Title IX or the Olympic sports, you know what I mean? And it just was an opportunity for me to tell them what I think. Exercise it. The more natural it becomes to not let my fears run me. And you heard Larry, all these years later, that's what he was talking about with his own personal. So, I mean, that's, to me, is another type of my medals. Because when my athletes tell me that they've used things or parts of things that we did together as a coach and swimmer relationship shaped their lives, that's good, because that's what the goal was. I go to Unity Temple on the plaza, and on the front of one of the Sunday bulletins, and it's handed down from the ancient Sanskrits, and I just want to read it because I think it sends a message to us. You will receive a body, you will learn lessons. There are no mistakes. And that is certainly how I looked at it when I looked in the mirror. I said, this is a boy's body. And I'm one of 7 children. And I got 5 brothers. You know, but I saw Donna Reed or June Cleaver, and I said, I want to be that. You know, why can't I be? I built the walls to make sure that I lived with, because that's all we knew in the 50s and 60s. And I was born in the late 40s. So, I mean, you know, it wasn't because when you hear people say, why are there so many young people coming out as transgender today? Because they talk with their parents. And I promise you, in the June Cleaver and Donna Reed era, and that's what I loved about them also, was they talked with their children. I didn't have it defined then. I defined it more as my years went on. And part of my coaching was to make sure I didn't talk at my athletes. I talked with my athletes. And I see 90% of parenting is talking with. I see teachers talking with. We have made it. I don't think I innovated it or planned it. But a lesson is repeated until it's learned. And learning lessons does not end. There is no better than here. Others are merely mirrors of you. What you make of your life, key point here, is up to you. And that's what I taught my athletes and the parents and the people that I was involved with leading in any way, shape, or form. It wasn't my goal to become a leader. It was my goal to live as a leader. And I want you to know that. Habits you created to survive will no longer serve you when it's time to thrive. I created a lot of male habits. I could not imagine living the last third of my lifetime and not being able to see me. Get out of survival mode, and new habits, new life. So likewise, I said yes to Jenny that I would come and speak. So I share those to you because I'm going to try to spend a little time, and I know there's at least one Blazer swimmer or Blazer person in the room, and Laughlin. Oh, get it? They get married on me, is here, and she swam with me a long time with her husband who works here at KU. And I don't know if there's any other Blazer families, but if you did, I want to say thank you to all of you because you made my journey phenomenal. And I learned as much from you guys as possible you learned from me. But Coach Malone's philosophies and principles, there were some key things that really were fundamental. When I was flunking trigonometry, which I flunked a lot of subjects, I just want to officially tell you that. That was part of my struggle with my parents. They thought if they hit me over the head with a book, that would work, and 2 or 3 of my siblings were geniuses, so that really made it hard when you're the oldest son and you don't learn like everybody else. But I did get a college degree, I did get a high school degree, I did get 2 college degrees, and I got an MBA, which I never finished because I came to Kansas City to coach and build a program. And I said, I got all the knowledge I needed from the courses. I really don't need the letters. Material rewards are here today and gone tomorrow. That wasn't interesting to me. I was going to be a coach, which I made that decision when I was 17. There's the principle of 3, because my tutor told me the triangle and the pyramids were the reason they last forever is because they have 3 points. And he went on to explain that and helped me, and I finally passed trigonometry because he was really good. He was a high school kid that could make me see it because I need to see it. Memorizing it doesn't work for me. It has to come through in a picture. So the principle of 3, so that became fundamental foundation to me. There's got to be 3 good reasons for me why I should come here today and talk to you. Okay? One was because I think I have something to share. 2 was because I really believe the transgender community in many places is misunderstood. And I know that there's going to be more and more people at different ages because they can look in the mirror and they can get on the internet and they can look for the answers. I had no idea what the word transgender was. I promise you. First time was when Renee Richards transitioned, and then I was jealous because she's a great tennis player, she's an eye doctor, and she got to be a woman. That was the most important thing to me. And I was going, wow, go back to work and coach your athletes. Thank God, because I never had a real job. That was the other thing that frustrated my parents, people. And I'm not saying that all of us can get that. I had a profession that was my obsession. It was my passion. And it was like going to play every day. And so that's what made it easy. And people say, well, how did you ever go at when you put in 80, 90 hours a week? And I go, well, most of it's because it's all play. I hated it when the bureaucrats said I had to sit there and write reports. That got more prevalent by the end of my career. So I challenge you, if you use that principle, which I taught my swimmers this, there's got to be 3 reasons. When I wrote a workout, 3, I never felt I gave somebody a lap to do that. I couldn't explain why I asked them to do it. And I used to challenge them and say, if you don't think it's logical that we do this stuff, then ask me to give you the reasons. But that's after practice. If it's that important to you, we're on a timeline here, And I'll gladly sit here and discuss it, but we're not going to have an excuse to get out of doing it. We're going to do it. You made the choice to come through the door. You have the choice to go out the door. But if you're here, you're going to do what we have planned. But I'll discuss it with you. So I did a lot of educating them because I wanted them to become as good a coach as I was, and they would hear that. If you can't teach it, then you'll never coach it. And most likely you'll never be able to do it. Larry's doing it because he can teach it. He understands what he's trying to do. And I like to think that I gave him some of those tools. So the principle 3 is important. And sometimes I couldn't give him 3. And I said, that's because the one reason is so strong, I went with it. And that was okay. I knew when there weren't 3. But I do that when I invest in the stock market. I do that when I'm doing things with my children. I do that in every aspect of my life. And there were 3 good reasons to stand here today. And I said, get over it, get over your fear, and be public. Because I knew they were going to advertise me. And I've just tried to slip away. You know? The other thing is, we have 3 lifetimes. I know that sounds crazy. Here's the principle 3. Well, your first lifetime in general is you're living with your family, if you're privileged to have one all the way through that. And that's the period you're getting educated, you're growing up, and it usually concludes sometime, in my era, it concluded when you were 18. Because they either shipped you off to Vietnam, or you really better be ready to be an adult. Because there's no, it's just what it is. And so I think our parents worked really hard to have us ready. The privilege today is that we don't have to have our kids ready at age 18. I'm all for this 25, mid-20s, because we're living now till be in our 80s and 90s, I hope, since I'm past the 70 mark. I'm hoping I'm living into the 80s and 90s. Okay? So there's 3 lifetimes. Most of my lifetimes, I've lived as a male. Most of my lifetimes, my second lifetime, I lived as a competitive swimming coach and a leader trying to make the world better, and sport was my vehicle. But you have that lifetime that when you finally finish your education, or you finish deciding, I don't care if it's a trade school or if you become a beautician, or whether you become a truck driver, you enter phase 2 of your life, or your second lifetime. And lots of things go on during that period, lots of changes. But hopefully if you've done the first one right, you got a foundation of your house that can take the storm, and you get on through it. I will tell you, this third lifetime is absolutely the best. And I had the privilege to be healthy enough to get to it. And I now get to be authentic and whole. And it's not like I just became a woman. It's like I heard, the Chinese landed on the dark side of the moon last week. Okay, let's use that as an example. And I would pull these kind of things out every day for the kids. And they would tell me, we're not going to war. We're not going to be carrying guns. You know what I mean? And I'd be giving them some analogy to what I went through in my life growing up. But I wanted them to see life as real. And I think that's what I did a good job of. But my female side was on the dark side all the time. And I don't mean that in a negative dark side way. I just kept it where no one could see it. But she was inside me, powering me. And she was making me really a better, on the outside, male. Because I had empathy, even though many of my athletes thought I was the toughest thing they ever saw. But when crisis came, they understood how soft I really am. And I am nurturing. And I knew all those things. And I wasn't mad about it. I just said I'm the best of both worlds. I'm 180 this, 180 this, now I'm 360 this. The other thing I think is important for you is that you understand that all people are leaders. And everybody thinks a leader is that guy who gets to stand up here. No, you're leading right by yourself, sitting there and listening. If you're listening, you're leading yourself to decide what information I'm going to take in, what goes with me, what makes a difference. And maybe it will give me, if you walk out of here with at least one thing that you can use, I'm a success. okay? Yes, I'd like you to have more, but I want you to have at least one. And so it applies to each individual, and like I mentioned earlier, it's as unique as your fingerprints. So leadership is a word that's multidimensional. And what's most important is how it fits with you. And how can it make my life and the world a little bit better? We all have a birth certificate. I challenge you to take the time to look at it. Did this with my athletes a lot. Did it with my staff more. Because they all thought they were owed something. They all thought they were guaranteed something. And in today's world, we all go by those big, huge TVs, and the first thing we do is we get our receipt, we look and see what our guarantees are, and want to know what our warranty is. You know, you didn't get any of that when you got a birth certificate. Flip it over, it's blank. I took mine to the pool, and to those that weren't getting the point, and showed them. The rest of it's up to you. From the day you come out of that mommy's belly, it's up to you. And that would be something I'd say to them. Yes, as parents, we're supposed to help you get tools. We're there to help mentor. We're there to help cater. But life is an opportunity. It's a privilege. It's not something you're owed. And I coached from that premise. So another propelling thing for me was my Johnny Appleseed story. And if you have the privilege to eat the fruit of the tree today, it's your job to make sure there's going to be fruit for the generations that have yet to come. And I identified that principle between age 17 and 19, and I realized that I'd made it in the first couple of years out of the house. And I was finally not... what I did, I would do again in a heartbeat, but that's not really the story. The bottom line is, because my parents taught me to be strong, they taught me to be determined, they taught me to be relentless. My father suffered from polio, and he never, ever said he couldn't do something. And he had braces on both of his legs since he was 14 years old. You know, and that's what I grew up around. And he, taught me. He didn't say he couldn't bowl. He didn't say he couldn't play golf. He didn't say he couldn't shoot baskets with us. He found a way to do it. Didn't run, I can promise you that. And he didn't move very fast. And it took him a lot longer to get dressed in the morning than me. But I admire him. And so I had wonderful upbringing. They gave me everything I needed in my toolbox. And it was for me to build my life. So, as my swimmers would say, I have way too many sayings, but you're going to get a few of them. We move towards and become like how we think and act, one day at a time. Break it down and think what that says, people, because it will magnify your life. United, we are strong. Divided, we are weak. And the analogy I would use frequently, which I probably wouldn't use today, I would make a fist and say, if I punch you with this one finger, how much damage do I do? But if I punch you with this, what do I do? Because they're united. So apply that. And the mind runs the body. And this is where you get into the transgender thing, and which is the big complication. And I understand we have a lot of medical people here. And we got a doctor of psychiatry, so he might want to take me as a client afterwards. But it's the mind is in charge. You hear about being brain dead, if we're talking about the medical thing. And I would talk to the athletes like this and talk to them about these things. So, yeah, it's the mind that's in charge. We've got to train the mind. We've got to train the mind to be mentally tough, mentally have endurance, And this is not for everybody. And it wasn't that they had to be swimmers the rest of their life, but they had to be good people the rest of their life. And they had to be capable to find their dreams. And as a result of that, I was eventually able to get many that made it to the highest level. But one of my swimmers, I saw some swimmers the other night, since this publication went out that I was doing this, and I did a eulogy at a funeral. The world that I came from is all becoming a little more enlightened, that the rumors are beyond true, you know? And so it was Christmas. A bunch of them were in town seeing their families. They're in their late 30s, early 40s, and they called me and they wanted to FaceTime, you know, because they wanted to see if it was real. You know, picture's worth 1,000 words. So it was beautiful, though. It really was beautiful. So I got together with them the next night, a bunch of them, and one said to me, and she was captain of the group at one time, but she was really, in the worlds of athletic talk, she was a plunker, you know? And she was just saying, but she owns a company, does consulting, you know, and she was going on and she said, but I never felt like that. Every one of us was important. And I said, you just made my life. Because she's now 41 years old and has 3 kids and, you know, is doing something, and she's telling me it makes a difference. Okay? Larry added to that sunshine today. So the mind runs the body. Analyze it. If you want to be medical or you want to be in diet, it does. When you lose those connections, it's over. And so I understood that picture. So I tried to give them all the tools that mind could be in charge. And in the same process, teach them the physical parts and train them. So, treat success and failure identical. Most people can exactly tell you what they did wrong when they fail. Ask them to write you an essay about what they did right when they were winning. That is going to be the shortest essay you'll ever get. Because they're overjoyed. You know, I love it when you see these interviews on TV and they say, well, and then they really want to talk about his mistakes. You know what I mean? And there's a lot more data on that. I do think we're out of balance. We need to treat success and failure more balanced. And when I did have to do interviews and they wanted to get to whatever the negative thing was going on, I generally said the interview's over, or that's not going to help me right at this moment. I'm thinking about the things we did right. And that's how I look at things. And I'm going to analyze it, but that's going to be right. And so I challenge you, whatever you do, and if you can create your own little sayings that are triggers, and that's what I tried to develop in my swimmers. Cue words, if I said it, I help plan it. But I always told them to find their own, create their own, because it wasn't my dream. And my theory on the Olympic dreams, because there's 2 words that get used a lot. People like to hear about, God, the Olympic dream, or excellence. Excellence is the most misused word in this society. I hate to tell you that. Excellence, to me, is some individual or group, if they've decided to work together on something, reaching 99% of their potential. And I can promise you, just like fingerprints, everybody's potential is different. So you might not reach the same level. That's what Tara Tamburello was telling me. She was just an everyday swimmer. But she's best friends with some of the best swimmers I ever had, including my double gold medalist. And Catherine doesn't see her any different. Never did when she was in the pool. You know, and I love that I accomplished that. Because excellence is an important word, but don't use it unless you truly understand it. And I love it because we tend to use it way too much, and we're not anywhere close to the 99th percentile of our potential. And people say, you're being so negative. No, I said, I'm positive we're not. So you're not going to scare me with that. The other thing is every one of my Olympians would know, because they knew by the time they qualified for Olympic trials. And my first swimmer went to an Olympic trial in 1972 that I was in charge of. So I got to go to a lot of Olympic trials. And I hadn't figured this out yet. But I was pretty disappointed after the boycott, because I thought I finally had arrived and I thought I knew everything. Boy, did I get put in my place by one of my swimmers. And who went on to be an American record holder and win an unbelievable amount of titles at the NCAA. She graduated from high school in 3 years, graduated from college in 3 years, had an MBA before her graduating high school class got out of college, and she won 17 NCAA titles. So if you say you can't be smart and be academic, don't talk to me about that, because all my swimmers were expected to be excellent in the classroom. And they turned their grades in every quarter. But back to the Olympic dreams. Because if they couldn't parallel what we're doing in the pool, in the classroom, then I'm doing something wrong. And we're giving them work-goal relationships, we're giving them concentration skills, listening skills, and I hope doing skills. I would remind my swimmers that there's, and I finally it was after the Seoul Olympics in '88 that I really learned something I learned something every time. And it became a big moment for me. And, but in '88, my swimmer that made the team was a very big surprise. He beat the guy who still holds who won more NCAA men's titles than any male in the history of swimming, who still holds that record. And my swimmer beat him to make the Olympic team. And he'd been the world record holder and been the gold medalist in '84. And I had to convince him that that really didn't make any difference. And because you're 5 inches shorter, that also doesn't make any difference. And you get to go to the trials, you're ranked in the top 10 in this country, and only 2 people get to go. I said, the one thing we know for sure is if you don't swim fast enough in prelims, you're not going to get a chance to make the team. So really, you don't have to worry about anybody else. Just get in your lane and do your thing. I want you to get back to that self-ownership of black line. He did that. He qualified 4th. And so he said, what? And that's the first time in his whole life of me coaching him, he said to me in between sessions, and he goes, I really want to make the team. And of course, I want to tell you what Mark told me many others. The only reason I'm a swimmer is because my parents put me in swimming and I'm good at it. If they'd put me in tennis, I would have been a great tennis player. And he's obsessed with basketball. And he picked the school over basketball. Not the swimming team. He went to UCLA. And that was back in the era when they were winning all the time. And he says, that's just my dream. I said, 5'8" white guy. You know what I mean? I'm going, yeah, okay. And he said, and so for the first time, he really was loud that I want to make the Olympic team. This is really important to me. And I said, well, that's good. I said, you don't have any problem because the guy who's in first place is the gold medalist in '84 and the world record holder. No big deal. And he just retired, finished his NCAA career. And I said, the guy that's in second place is the fastest young guy coming up, because Mark was 19. I said, and this guy was like 17 or 18, and he'd kicked Mark's butt throughout his life. And I said, I really think he's going to win the race. And I said, I really think you got to be. And the other guy, I said, you've beaten him plenty. So just forget about him. And because if you don't beat Pablo, you're not going anyways. And I just kind of laughed like that. And he said, well, how am I going to do that? I said, just by being the best you could be. Something you've seen on the wall at the pool every day. And at the other end of the pool is commitment to excellence. But they were all taught what the word excellence meant. I made them see those things every day. And I would refer to them. So I say that to you, and Mark did make the team. And when he didn't make finals at the Olympics, he says to me, I'm a failure. He says, I'm USA Olympic swimmer. I'm not supposed not to win a medal. Am I doing something wrong? Okay.
We may want.
So I tell you those stories because those are real. Those are really moments that stood there. And I said, Mark, you've got this really wrong. He won his best time. I said, but you do have a job. You are a USA Olympic swimmer, and you do have to come back. Back then, we had a consolation bracket and a finals bracket. And I said, you have a job to get out there and win that race tonight and represent the United States, which he did. And so I share those things. And I'm going to go on to phase 3 and let Larry ask some questions.
If you don't mind, I want to make sure the audience has a chance to ask.
Those are my things I wanted to get out before I allow anybody else to get at me.
Okay, all right. You may have figured this out. Veronica has presented to thousands of people and coached and affected thousands of people. Today is the first day she's presenting as herself to a group like this. And so I want to acknowledge and honor and appreciate the courage that it took to do this. So,
well, I will close with my part of something saying this, that this is my black line. And part of my motivation came from my swimmers. Because they have followed theirs and did it. And what am I if I coached them and taught them if I wasn't willing to step forward? So you got me. Good or bad, you got me.
are there questions for Veronica? And we've got a catch box that we'll be passing to folks.
I didn't do that good a job, or is that boring?
No, this is what they do. They'll wait a minute, and then they're going to ask questions. I know someone here has a question or two. We'll get you a catch box. This will help with our recording. Yeah, I know. There you go. I know, right?
This is new. I'm a parent of a transgender son. And I also, because of that, I decided I was going to start working. I'm a therapist. I decided I was going to start working with transgender children. So I have children that I work with from 3 up. And the thing that I find most exciting, and I'm wondering if you do too, is how many kids are coming out now. And coming out from 3 all the way up to, 53, 63, whatever. When you see other transgender kids or kids who are struggling, what do you tell them?
I tell them that I really try to stay with my core principle that the mind runs the body. And if you can create that picture of yourself as that gender, and that clarity will come. And if it does, I think this is really what you were meant to be. And that I think what's in there is important. I think, as I said, I don't think this is a new thing. There's just a whole lot of us that never, in our own brains, could capture it because the world didn't create the opportunity, and that's not a negative. The internet didn't exist. The web didn't exist. We haven't had these discussions. Not enough people had transitioned, okay? There's just so much. It wasn't there, okay? And, there's a lot of things that are different, but I say for the young people is because I do think, somebody said to me, it's a fad. It's just because we're doing so much and allowing it that they're doing it. And I said, no, my swimmers would never have come to practice for 6 hours a day and go to school for another 6-7 hours a day and call that a good day. And Aaron, would you say that is pretty accurate? And Aaron's started medical school, stopped medical school because she likes to have children, and she's got lots of them. She's a doctor, but she was a swimmer for 4 years in college and loved it. You know what I mean? And I just think they get that picture. They can't do it. If they own it, it's real. You know what I mean? And they're going to be able to describe it. And they're going to be able to come up with what I call the picture words. You know, I'm not saying that every child that thinks, you know what I mean? It might be that they just like more feminine things, or they just like we know some girls are tomboys, as the old saying would be, or some boys are more effeminate. You know what I mean? And you know, that's, to me, those were how we processed all those years. But today, I think they have a doorway they can go through. And they can have discussions. And I do think it should be cautious. And I do think it should be patient. And I do think that we shouldn't be denying, you know. And yeah, maybe they will grow out of it. You know what I mean? I can't promise you they won't. But I don't know if I'm answering, but that's my opinion. I just think you have to work with them.
That's great. Other questions?
I have a question.
Go.
I know you talked a little bit about misconceptions of the transgendered community. So what would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions you have experienced, and what would you wish that people would know?
I know for myself, and I'll say this, and I'm not the most qualified LGBTQ, and I'll be honest with you, the pronoun thing complicates me, okay? All the letters complicate me, which I think complicate things for the world because we keep making it more complicated. And I've always believed you keep things simple, you know? So I can't tell you that I'm a pro at that, because I've gotten more knowledge in the last Inside Scoop, and I was just inspired last Sunday when I sat at a meeting with GLSEN. And I could really see where they were all coming from. They've been at it for a long time. And you know, I had a number of gay swimmers. One of my Olympians who won gold medals I'll just say it the way I used to say. I just say she's a lesbian, and she has 2 wonderful children. But it took her till she finished her swimming career, till she really, you know, could figure out which gender was where things belonged. You know, I probably knew it before she did, you know, but I let her truck this way herself, you know what I mean? And she's very happy. She's been with the same person for over 20 years, you know what I mean? And, you know, it's great, but I remember having to sit down with her parents and help them bridge this thing with their gold medalist and world record holder, and, you know, but... So, I mean, I've had to do that, and I've had to do it with younger ones, with parents, you know, because they've come to it. But that became more in my last 10 years of where I found kids could come and talk to me. You know, before, it took them till they went to college or got out of college before they really were able to themselves put that handle on. I don't think that's the healthiest. I can't say I want to go do it over, but because I don't think the world was in the same place. This is where I'm at today. I want to make the world better for what is yet to come. Okay? And I don't want to fix the past. I want to fertilize the future, if that makes sense. Sure. Does that answer it somewhat?
Sure. Yeah.
Because I'm not a pro. You know, and I don't want to offend anybody in that community, because this was an individual decision. Anybody else for a question?
We've got time for one more question. Here. And Gigi has.
I'm going to throw it. Are you ready?
There you go. Nice job.
Okay, it's not a question, so it's a comment. Veronica, I raised 3 swimmers, and I was a single mom. And they did summer swim, and they were in high school. One of them was a really great swimmer. And I always regretted that they couldn't swim on the Blazers, because I just couldn't make it happen. And I've never regretted it more than after spending time with you, because I'm going to cry, because I think you're one of the most awesome coaches ever. Thank you.
Now you're going to make me cry. You know, I just want you to know that this is a real privilege, but life's a privilege. And if we all keep that in mind, and you hang on to what I said, everybody's a leader. We're not all going to be the president of the organization or the chair. But we are a leader. You just got to figure out how that comes out in your body image. And I never spent a lot of time shopping or buying clothes, but you would not want to see my closets today. And talk about having a shoe collection, yeah. But I did have to go through puberty, and there's everything else. I probably fretted over what I would wear today as much as I did, because I want to be a complement to femininity. I want to be a complement to all the women in this world. And the last thing I want to be is a distraction. And I think frequently what gets misconstrued for the transgender is that some people think we want to be a distraction. And we don't. We just want to find harmony with inside and outside. And everyone's different, so I can't tell you that I'm exactly like everybody else. But I know a lot of them, and I've helped start a few support groups for the older transgender to be involved with. And, some of them never get beyond just being a cross-dresser because they can't see getting over that. And I'm not judgmental. It's like, not everybody can be an Olympic swimmer. Not everybody wants to swim in college. Not everybody wants to even do swimming past 14 years of age. And I just wanted to have you say that we were out there for you is a compliment in itself. There are some other things that I will share because we're out of time, and I'm sorry we didn't really get to do the sit down, but I did get the most important things I wanted to get out. Is at the back of the room we have a lot of things on PFLAG, but there's a lot of literature about whether it's transgender or LGBT things that are educational. That's the biggest thing PFLAG does. Madam President Lisa Wright is here with me today, and she's done an amazing job since she's taken over the leadership. And that's how I became vice president, because I promised her if she'd be president, I would help her. And then I got railroaded in election to be vice president, because another thing I swore I would never do is I would never serve on any more boards, and I would never be in charge of these things anymore. But I couldn't think of a better organization that I could be part of, trying to help families and kids. There's a copy of a scholarship card, which is one of my big projects that I've worked on with PFLAG and GLSEN. And we have a scholarship available to LGBT graduating seniors. We did it last year for the first time, and we awarded $1,000 and a $500 scholarship. My job was to get GLSEN on board. My job was to help make a dream become a reality. And we'll be awarding 2 $1,000 scholarships this year. And we're in the process of accepting applications. If you know anybody that might want it, take the card. This is outside my knowledge, but there's a barcode thing there, and you put your barcode reader up, and it pops open the application on your phone or your electronic device. Surround myself with a lot of competent people. And I have one of my own personal cards back there, and it's from my Cinderella night. In 2008, and it was the first time I had a chance to wear a gown. I was still wearing wigs, because I have curly hair today, because my person who does my hair said, "You're going to give a talk. You're going to get your hair curled." I said, "Be at the shop at this time in the morning, and I'm going to do it before I come, so don't think I did this. But I hope it looks great." I'm working on combing it. But it is all mine, and at my age, that's pretty good too. I have naturally very curly afro-like hair, and so I use Brazilian blowouts. I'll give you my secret. My hair is normally fully straight. And but that is with my favorite wig and my first gown, but it also has my email on the bottom of it. So if you want to reach out to me and say that you were at this talk and you have a question or something I can do, please do. Okay? And then... Oh, yeah. There was a reason. I'm English, grammar, spelling. When I first started doing emails, they told me it's only meant to give short communications. I said, great. I just give thoughts, but I used to stutter. Can you believe that? Until I was about 16. And I don't read very well. If somebody reads it in a minute. It takes me probably 3 to 4 to read the same amount. So I've learned to do it. I'm here.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
I know where your time. Thank you very much. Would you all please join me? Thank you all very much. We have a gift for you.
Oh,
Would you mind
guys-
opening it and sharing it with the group as we
No.
would love for you to see it?
That would be fine. Now that my knees are stopped shaking, maybe. Oh my God.
You have to see the back.
I will in a minute. The first T-shirt we did in the early mid-'70s, late '70s, and was put "For Pete's Sake" on the back.
Yep.
Because at that point, when I was building the program from scratch, a lot of people thought I was the program, and eventually I took that off the shirt because I said, I am not the program, the kids are. But
today, you're the program.
this means a lot. So Larry,
Thank you very much.
thank you very much. Thanks again, people. Good luck with your lives and your next day. Sorry we didn't get to all those questions, but I tried to cover them. Thank you. I was afraid it was going to go like that, but I just knew that I had to get
So good. I just wish that Veronica could coach my kid. I'm sitting that whole time. I was like, "Damn, I missed that one. I had to send one to the Marine Corps to get that stuff." So you shared that. That's me. That's them.